Have you ever felt trapped without even knowing it? Imagine a wild animal, one that has spent its entire life fighting for every bite, dodging predators, surviving uncertainty, and one day it gets caught. But it's not locked in a cage with rusty bars. They offer something much more subtle: a warm shelter, food served every day, clean water, security. At first, it resists. It knows it is trapped. It feels it. But over time, something strange happens. The fight fades, the restlessness disappears, it gets used to it, and the most terrifying part is that the cage opens. It has the chance to escape, to return to freedom, but it doesn't. It stays. It prefers comfort over uncertainty. Sounds familiar? Look around you. How many people live in invisible cages without even realizing it? How many are trapped in a life they didn't choose but accepted because it's comfortable? Because here's the brutal truth. Comfort is the most dangerous trap ever invented. It doesn't hurt, it doesn't scare you, it doesn't warn you. It slips into your life in the form of a pleasant routine, a steady paycheck, distractions that keep you busy but never awake. And little by little, you stop caring that the doors are open. They sold you the idea that comfort is the goal, that the purpose of life is to reach a point where you don't have to fight, where everything is easy, safe, stable. But tell me, what has someone who never faced a storm built? What stories can someone who's never gotten lost tell? What victories can someone claim who's never risked? The answer is simple: nothing. Comfort is a drug, and like any drug, it creates dependence. It numbs you, convinces you that being fine is enough, that you don't need more, that you shouldn't question, that you shouldn't make yourself uncomfortable. Society is designed to keep you in this state. It gives you quick entertainment, instant pleasures, social media that makes you feel like you're doing something when, in reality, you're doing nothing. An educational system that trains you to be obedient but never free. A job that pays enough for you to survive, but never enough for you to escape. It's a prison without walls, a cage with an open door. But you know what the worst part is? You choose to stay inside. Don't get me wrong, comfort isn't bad by itself. But when it becomes your only goal, when the fear of change is stronger than the desire to grow, you're done. Because here's the fundamental principle no one wants to accept. Growth only happens in discomfort. Look at any success story, any person you admire. They all have one thing in common. At some point, they embraced uncertainty, faced chaos, jumped without a safety net, and suffered. They fell, doubted, but moved forward. Because life doesn't reward those who seek safety. It rewards those who dare. And yet most choose to stay in the cage because leaving means giving up everything they've been taught. It means breaking with the routine, with the safety, with the false peace of a life without surprises. And that's scary because out there, there's chaos, there's failure. There are sleepless nights wondering if you made the right choice. There are days when you feel everything is falling apart. But there's also something you'll never find in comfort: real life. Because here's the truth no one tells you. Suffering has meaning. Uncertainty is necessary. Discomfort is the price of evolution. And the question is, are you willing to pay it? The most of all this is that most people don't even realize they're trapped. They convince themselves that they're fine. They cling to excuses. Now's not the time. When I have more money, when I have more time. Pure lies. Because the perfect moment doesn't exist. You'll never feel ready, and if you wait for everything to align, if you wait for the perfect signal, you'll die waiting. The world belongs to those who act, to those who decide to move even when they don't know exactly where, to those who understand that every day in the cage is a lost day. Discomfort is the way. Uncertainty is the only guarantee. So tell me, how much longer are you going to wait? How many more opportunities are you going to let slip by? Because you're afraid of losing what you don't even want. How many more times are you going to tell yourself you'll start tomorrow? Because here's the last brutal truth. Time doesn't wait for anyone. Every day you spend in comfort is one less day you have to build something meaningful, and the day you realize it could be too late. The cage is open. It always has been. The only question is, are you going to leave? But here's the real problem. It's not just that the cage is open. It's not just that you can leave whenever you want. It's that deep down, you don't even want to. Because the truth is, comfort has changed you. You're not the same person you were before you entered. The cage has made you softer, tamer, more complacent, and worst of all, it's made you forget what it means to truly live. Because life, real life, doesn't feel like identical days chained together. It doesn't feel like a purposeless calendar. It doesn't feel like waking up with the feeling that today will be as meaningless as yesterday. But there you are, repeating the same routine, convincing yourself that you're fine. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you did something that made you feel alive? Not something entertaining, not something comfortable, but something that burned you from within, something that woke you up, something that made you feel you were on the brink of something great. If you can't answer, then you already know the truth. They domesticated you. Because it's not just about comfort. It's about what you lose when you get used to it. You lose the ability to take risks. You lose the hunger for something better. You lose the will to break out of the established. And when you realize that everything you thought was normal is just a cage in disguise, it's too late. Because the cage is not a place, it's a state of mind. And if you spend enough time in it, it becomes part of you. You don't need bars if you no longer have the drive to escape. You don't need a lock if you're no longer searching for the key. And that's the true purpose of the system, to make you forget that there's something beyond. But here's what's even more. Not only have they trapped you in comfort, they've trained you to defend it. Every time someone dares to step out, they attack them, ridicule them, call them crazy, a dreamer, irresponsible. Because when someone escapes, they remind others that they too could do it. And that's the last thing they want to accept, because admitting it would mean accepting that they've wasted years, decades, an entire life, settling for less than what they really wanted. So instead of leaving, they try to convince you to stay. Why risk what you have? And if you fail, what if you lose it all? As if losing mediocrity were a real loss. As if it weren't worse to stay exactly where you are. As if it weren't worse to live with the certainty that you never tried. Here's the reality. They're buying you with crumbs. They sell you stability in exchange for your ambition, security in exchange for your freedom, comfort in exchange for your potential, and you accept in exchange for a predictable routine, for a paycheck just enough for you to not complain, but not enough to be free. In exchange for distractions that make you forget what you really want. The system doesn't need bars. It just needs to keep you entertained enough so you never question your own cage. And when the idea of escaping crosses your mind, fear stops you. What if it doesn't work? What if I end up worse off? Let me tell you something. There's no worse failure than never trying. Because what destroys a human being the most is not the pain of risk. It's the slow death of inaction. It's the constant doubt of what you could have been. It's the agony of seeing yourself in the mirror and knowing you didn't give it your all, that you gave up before you even started. That's the real hell. And here comes the question that changes everything. If you knew that in 5 years, you would be in the same place you are today, would you keep waiting? If the answer is no, then the real question is, what are you doing about it? People always say they want more, that they want freedom, that they want purpose, that they want to leave their mark. But when it's time to pay the price, they back out. Because freedom costs, real life costs. It will cost you to leave the security of the known. It will cost you to face the judgment of others. It will cost you sleepless nights, failures, scars. But tell me, doesn't comfort cost you something too? Because every day in the cage costs you opportunities that will never come back. It costs you experiences you will never live. It costs you the life you could have had. And if you think that's not a high price, it's because you still haven't understood what you're losing. So here's the most brutal truth of all. Either you choose the pain of discomfort, or you choose the pain of regret. One lasts a moment, the other lasts a lifetime. And the worst part is that most will realize when it's already too late, when they look back and see that all they did was follow orders, meet expectations, play it safe. When they realize their life was never really theirs, when they understand that the cage was never closed, but they never had the courage to leave. So tell me, are you going to wait until it's too late? Are you going to keep giving yourself the same excuses? Or are you finally going to take control of your own life? Because the cage is open, and the only question is, are you going to stay inside, or are you finally going to wake up? Take a good look at your life. Observe it without filters, without excuses, without embellishments. Ask yourself the question you've been avoiding for years. Am I really living or just existing? Because most people aren't even alive. They're just breathing, just surviving, just following the script someone else wrote for them. But there's something inside you, right? Something that twists when you hear this. Something that knows there's more, that there could be more. That's the part of you that hasn't died yet. The part that remembers that once you wanted something bigger, that once you dreamed without fear. But the question isn't if you still feel it. The question is, are you going to do something about it? Because here's the final truth. No one is going to save you. No one is going to open the door of the cage for you. No one is going to push you out. Because the people around you are also trapped. They are also numb. They're also so comfortable in their routine that if you talk to them about change, they'll look at you like you're crazy. You can't wait for approval. You can't wait for the perfect moment. You can't wait for fear to disappear. The only thing you can do is move, without guarantees, without certainties, not knowing if it will work out. But knowing this, staying where you are is not an option. Because if you don't take a risk, if you don't take the step, if you don't try, then you don't need anyone to close the cage. You will have sealed it from the inside. And I know what you're thinking. Where do I start? Start by cutting what keeps you tied. Start by questioning everything you take for granted. Start by making yourself uncomfortable. Start by doing what you've always wanted to do but avoided because it's not the right time. The time is now. It always has been. Because life doesn't wait. It doesn't pause. It doesn't stop to see if you finally decide to move. Life keeps going, with or without you. And the only question that matters is, are you going to be the protagonist or just another spectator? Silence for a second of pause to let the words sink in. If you've made it this far, it means there's something inside you that hasn't given up yet. But hearing this isn't enough. You have two options. Close this video and go back to the same old routine, to autopilot, to the endless cycle of distractions and excuses, or take this feeling, this fire you're feeling right now, and use it to move. Even if you don't know exactly where. Even if the fear is still there. Because the difference between those who escape and those who stay trapped isn't the lack of fear. It's what they do despite it. If this has resonated with you, I want you to do something. Check the comments and write, "The cage is open." Not as a simple comment, not as an empty phrase, but as a commitment. because if you've made it this far, there's no turning back. The cage is open. You just need to decide to leave. Subscribe if you want more of this, if you want us to keep destroying together the lies they've sold us. And remember, life rewards those who dare. Now tell me, will you be one of them?